What up, you guys? Welcome to the channel. If you're new, don't be. Go ahead and click that subscribe button to be a part of the Witness Gang, to join the Witness Nation. And let's get into this, shall we? Hello, you guys, and welcome to the channel. If you're new, don't be.
I'm Whitney. Keep it cute or get the boot.
Your girl, as whack as she is in all her glory, was in the New York Times. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Happy Tuesday. Y'all already know what Tuesday is bringing you guys, and that is they called him Daddy too. Okay. But before we get into everything, I want to say welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Long time no see or whatever. We're going to get into all of that before we start. But not for nothing, let me know where you guys are tuning in from by putting your city and or state in the chat so I can shout you out. Okay. Make sure you guys keep it cute, so you won't get the boot. All right. Now that's what we are legendary for, as you see over here. Okay. Keep it cute. All right. That's it. You know what I'm saying? That means to be respectful. You don't have to agree with me. That ain't that type of party. Okay. Just be respectful. Okay. And be mindful of who platform you're on. Okay. All right. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. Like this video. And if you care, share this video. Okay. All right. Now, if you like to join the channel, you can do so by clicking out of your chat and clicking that join button that's located up underneath this video, or you can visit the description box upon the ending of this video and check it out in the description box. Okay. Now, if you'd like to support me to get more content like this, you can do so by sending me a cash out at Whitney D TV 87 or super chat here on the channel. Okay. Either way, I'm just grateful that you're here. All right. Now, all this material is protected by fair use clause of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowing the rebroadcast of copyrighted materials for the purposes of commentary, entertainment, or education. And that's what I pride myself on, giving you a little bit of all three of those. Okay. All right. Now, lastly, if you guys would like to send me anything, you can do so by sending it to my P.O. box. Okay. Thank you guys that did send me gifts on my birthday. I am so appreciative. Thank you guys so very much. Now, you can also let me know what you guys think. You are okay to be heard here and you have a voice here. So make sure that you engage in the comments and in the chat. All right. Okay. So let's go ahead and get into everything. Gosh, it's been a minute. Okay, and I do apologize. Let me update my name so you guys can see it. Let me scooch myself over. Let me see if that suffices. Okay, I think that's good. So y'all can be able to okay, one more. Let's see. All right, that's perfect. So if you guys want to see my social media, my handle is right here as well as my Cash App handle. Okay. All right, you guys. You know what? It has been a great weekend. I just celebrated my 35th birthday. June 11th, Gemini gang. Yes, your girl had a wonderful evening. I started early. I started Friday. And I went out with some of my girlfriends. That was just exclusively for my girlfriends the day before. And we went to this place here in Dallas called Sangaga. I don't know. It's some jazz spot. And it had live jazz. And then at the back end of it was the hip hop, the DJ and stuff like that. No shade. If I give my review, I didn't like the DJ. Okay. Whoever that DJ was at the back was garbage. You're trash. I mean, every time it was about to get crunk on the song, he cut it off. I felt like we was on YouTube. I'm like, are you trying not to get flagged or something? It's just like, yeah, he'll play a song, you know what I'm saying? INDEP, shake your money, make a drop it to the side. You be like, I didn't even get to get independent. Child. So I went in and I ended up having a good time. Let me see if I thought I had my pictures. I was going to show y'all, but I don't know. I think Demi probably been out here and hit me up. But I had some pictures we took at the club, I guess you would want to call it, jazz spot or whatever. And it was fun. I was cute, but I was hot as hell. Okay. I'm trying to find my pictures. Oh, I hate when people mess up my desk. Anyways, child, if I find them, I'm gonna post them. But if you're following me on social media, you've seen all the pictures, all the videos, and things like that. Not for nothing. It was a nice little spot. Went in. They played. You had the jazz dude singing all the covers of songs, and he had a beautiful voice. It was awesome. The drinks were very good, and the waitresses were amazing, beautiful, and it was just a very good time. And I was like, dang, I'm getting old, child. I didn't even know where to go. And then we go to a jazz spot. I was like, Lord, has my mind has time changed, and oh my gosh, jazz. Like, anyways, then on my birthday, my husband and I, it was just exclusively our day, and he took me to brunch at Del Rock here in Texas. He took me to Del Rock Cafe. It's like a very it seriously throws you back into time. It's weirdly enough. But we went there to brunch, and then we went off to Glow Sauna and Spa. Well, actually before that I got my nails and my toes done. And then we went off to Glow Sauna and Spas in Dallas, off of Mockingbird, and we went there, and I didn't think I was gonna like it, child. I was like, it's already hot. It's 104 degrees out here in Texas, in Dallas, and I'm gonna go to a freaking sauna. At first, I was like, babe, what were you thinking? But I loved it. I loved it. We was in a 152-degree sauna, child, and I was sweating like a Hebrew slave. It was all worth it. It was fun. I got out. I had this amazing glow. I posted pictures. I redid my makeup and everything. I washed up. It was just amazing. So when we got out into the 104-degree weather here in Texas, it really wasn't as hot, child. And so we went from there, and we had a beautiful dinner. And I was going to go out again with my girlfriends, but child, this old age caught up with me, baby, and I went to sleep. And that was my birthday. And we got up the next morning and went to church. And I wouldn't have it any other way. It was amazing birthday, amazing way to bring in 35. And shouts out to everybody who said happy birthday to me. I was going to do a whole little rigmarole, but I'm gonna shout you guys out in a post on the community tab. So, anyways, you guys, without further ado, welcome to They Call Him Daddy too. This is a series that I started because, I mean, on the contrary, we all know about the female victims, okay? And it's just like we act as if he didn't have any male counterparts, and he did, child. So what I've been doing, what I decided to do was just take everybody back into time, okay? Back to the transcripts of these John Does, so you can hear exactly how he treated them and what he did with them. And on the contrary, we have some people saying, because I stated, like, how dare I not give your boy a proper happy Pride Month? And they were just like, oh my gosh, stop putting his name out there. I didn't do it. I'm reading the transcript. So he put himself out there when he got his big old 50-something-year-old funky behind, funky penis tail on his knees and crawled to that 17-year-old boy. All right. Okay. Don't come for me. Okay. Play with your mama and your kids, not with me. Okay. I'm reading the transcripts, and ain't no alleged. This is the experiences of Lewis himself. Okay. So without further ado, you guys, welcome to They Called Him Daddy too. All right, you guys, welcome back. And like I said, I'm not going to hold you guys. We're going to go ahead and get into it. I just like to get you guys caught up while I am getting these pages together, okay? So for those that are just tuning in, we heard a slew of things. We heard of how he met R.KELLY, which was through the drive-thru of McDonald's, his beloved McDonald's that he always goes to and picks up, little kids. And so he met R.KELLY at McDonald's. He was working at McDonald's. He came through the drive-thru. He said he's always seen R.KELLY at McDonald's. So it wasn't an alarming situation to see R.KELLY at McDonald's, at this particular McDonald's. However, on the contrary, it was different. He tried to ask him to put him down, if you will, with the manager that was there. And so he gave his number along with another number to give to the young lady, which was a Hispanic girl who didn't even know who he was, as well as for him to keep his number. And so the Hispanic lady didn't want it, but he kept it. He reached out because he was like, come on now, like, this is unreal, for one, and for two, he was a kid and he wanted to be an artist himself. So he felt like this was a golden opportunity. And so he reached out. We hear how he plotted on the parents as well. He made arrangements for the parents to come to a Christmas party to kind of show like, I'm good, I'm okay, and invited the family and himself to this Christmas party, where he then whispers in this poor baby ear that you need to come next time alone. He made arrangements for that to happen. And then what followed after that was a series of sexual encounters. One in particular was, like I may mention, was asking him what was he willing to do to get into the industry. The boy was basically saying, not like what you were thinking, but like, carry your bags, go send me off to Brooklyn somewhere to go pick up you some cheesecake. Now he wanted to get into this boy's drawers and pants, and that's what he did by literally crawling his big 50-something-year-old behind over to him and proceeded to give him head, fellatios. The boy really didn't want that. He said that's not what he wanted. He couldn't even get aroused. When R. Kelly noticed that he couldn't get aroused, he stopped and told him not to say nothing to nobody. We family, and don't say nothing. And the boy didn't. And it didn't stop there. It was a lot of other series of sexual encounters. When in particular, the boy remembered he got intoxicated, underage. All right. And he woke up to his pants being unbuttoned. And before he went to sleep, they were fastened. All right. So he felt like, he had to have had a sexual encounter with R. Kelly, unbeknownst to him. Okay. That's where we left off at. And that's where we're going to continue at with the reading. Okay. So let me go ahead and share my screen with you guys. Uh-oh. Let me pull that up. Okay, there we go. All right. And like I said, where we left off at was them going to lunch. And I feel like that was the perfect time for us to stop at. And so we continue on page 50, and let's hear exactly what happened. Okay. All right. So I'm going to put myself down here on the screen. Hi, you guys, down here with funky butt over here. All right. All right. So let's go ahead and get into this reading, shall we? All right. So let's go ahead on page 51. In open court, jury not present, parties present. The clerk. All rise. The judge. Everybody can have a seat. All right. Let's get the witness. No, we got everybody already. Oh, okay. Anything before we bring the witness? I'm sorry, Mr. Kennick. Yes, a brief non-record issue, Your Honor. The judge. Sure. He can still go get the witness, though, right? Mr. Kennick. Yes, the judge. Thanks. There was a pause. The witness enters the courtroom. Are we ready for the jury? Okay, let's get them in. There was a pause. Jury enters the courtroom. The clerk. You may be seated. The judge. All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed your lunch. We are ready to resume with the direct examination of the witness. Go ahead. Ms. Gideon. Thank you. The clerk. The witness is reminded he's still under oath. Lewis. Yes. Earlier today, you testified about the first time that you met the defendant. Do you recall the name of the individual who the defendant wanted to be put in touch with that day at the McDonald's? Hold on one second, y'all. Give me just a brief moment. All right, you guys, sorry about that. Okay, he answers, one of my managers. Do you remember her first name? He says Valerie. And how, if at all, did Valerie respond when you told Valerie that the defendant wanted to meet her or talk to her? He answered, she really didn't know who he was. She asked, before we broke, you testified about a time when you were at the defendant's house and you were intoxicated. Do you recall which room you were in when you woke up and saw the defendant? He says, it was another room off from the studio. Okay, and what, if anything, do you recall happening when you, or seeing when you woke up? He says, I just remember him leaving when I woke up. Hold on, y'all, 1 second. And what, if anything, made you believe that something sexual had happened between you and the defendant that day? Because my pants was kind of unbuttoned. Your pants were unzipped. Hold on 1 second, y'all. All right, sorry, y'all. Hold on 1 second. Let me get back on this. And to your knowledge, had they been unbuttoned before? He said no. And what, if anything, did the defendant do? You recall the defendant saying anything to you during that encounter or after the encounter? Hold on, y'all. Let me get off the screen. All right. And what, if anything, did the defendant do? You recall the defendant saying anything to you during the encounter or after that encounter? No. I'm showing the witness and everyone was in evidence as Government Exhibit 69. Without saying the individual's name, do you recall who this is? Yes. What is her name, her first name? You can say her first name. Dominique. And how do you know Dominique? Went to school together and also worked together. She went to Hillcrest. Oh, she went to Hillcrest? Yes. And were you and Dominique the same age or different ages? Different. And was she younger or older than you? Younger. By how much? I believe 1 to 2 years. Now, have you ever discussed the defendant with Dominique? He says yes. When was the first time that you discussed the defendant with Dominique? We was at McDonald's. And you testified earlier that you worked with Dominique. Where did you work with Dominique together? In McDonald's. And you testified earlier that you, okay. And where did you work with Dominique together? In McDonald's. And which McDonald's was this? Richton Park, Illinois. So a different one than the Markham McDonald's where you met the defendant. He says correct. And what caused you to discuss the defendant with Dominique? I was leaving work and I had locked my keys in the car, and Rob is kind of like maybe 10 minutes away from there. So I had when I went back, and I was joking with Dominique, like maybe I should see if my Uncle Rob will help me get in the car. How did Dominique respond? She said, you know Rob too. I was like, yeah. She was like, that's my boyfriend. I'm like, I didn't believe it. What, if anything, did she do or say after that? She showed me the tattoo behind her ear. And what was on the tattoo? It was Rob's initials. And what happened after that? She said that she can call him and get him to help me get in the car. And did she in fact then call the defendant? Yes. Were you able to hear that conversation? No. What, if anything, happened after the conversation? She just told me that he told her to hang up. Meanwhile, she got off the phone with him. Do not talk to me. Do not talk to me. Stay away from me. Did you continue to associate with Dominique after that, after the defendant told her not to speak with her, not to speak with you? Yes. And to your knowledge, did the defendant ever learn that you continued to speak with Dominique? Yes. How did you learn that the defendant learned you were still talking with Dominique? Mr. Koenig, hearsay, objection. The judge, are you objecting? I hear you not that good. Mr. Koenig, yes, I am. The judge, well, from whom did you hear it? Lewis, I'm sorry, what was that? What was the question? Did you ever how did you learn that the defendant found out that you continue to associate with Dominique? The judge, if that's a conversation with someone other than the defendant, I will sustain the objection. You saying how? The judge, did you speak to the defendant about it? Did you speak to Mr. Kelly about it? Lewis, yes. The judge, all right, is that okay? What happened? Lewis, well, you want to know how he first found out, or did you overhear a conversation between the defendant and Dominique? Yes. And where were you when the conversation took place? She was on the phone. We was on the phone. Me and Dominique was on the phone. And at some point, did you hear the defendant during the conversation? Yes. What did you hear the defendant say? He said, who you on the phone with? And then she just dropped the phone and he got on the phone. And what did he say to you? He said, he kept saying hello, hello, and I just hung up. And this conversation, this telephone call, where you were speaking with Dominique and the defendant got on the phone, was this before or after you met the defendant at the drive-thru in Markham McDonald's? He answered after. Was it several years after? Yes. And when you spoke with Dominique that day, were you calling from your phone number? Yes. How, if at all, did your relationship with the defendant change after the telephone conversation? He answers, He really didn't want nothing to do with me. The defendant stopped having anything to do with you or didn't want anything to do with you. Is that what you said? Yes. I want to direct your attention to October of 2011. What, if anything, happened then? I'm not sure what's your question. Were you arrested in October of 2011? Yes. What were you arrested for? Robbery. Did you, in fact, commit the robbery? Yes. How did you resolve your case? A plea deal. You pled guilty? Yes. And do you recall what your sentence was? 5 years probation. Were you the only one charged with that particular robbery, or were there other people charged with the robbery? Others. I'm showing what's in evidence as Government Exhibit 68. Was the individual shown in Government Exhibit 68 one of the individuals charged with the same robbery? Yes. And after he was charged, was he immediately released on bail, or did he remain in jail for a time? He remained in jail for some time. Did you have a conversation with the defendant about the individual shown in Government Exhibit 68? Yes. What was the nature of the conversation? He had asked, have I seen him? And he was asking. He said he haven't heard from him. He been trying to get in touch with him. Who asked you if you had seen the individual shown in 68? R.KELLY. Did you tell the defendant where the individual shown in 68 was? He says yes. Hey, Quaisha. Hey, Kamiko. What, if anything, did the defendant say? Well, he asked why he was still in there. And I told him because he didn't have bail money. And what happened? Once I told him the certain amount, he just said, oh my God, I don't have it. Yikes. At some point, did the defendant provide some money for this individual's bail? Mr. Cannon, objection. The judge sustained. Unless you had a conversation with the defendant about it. Lois, yes, I did. The judge, okay, you spoke to Mr. Kelly about this subject, about giving bail money? He says yes. The judge says, all right, go ahead. He goes on, Ms. Gideus goes on to ask, and what, if anything, did the defendant say or do? He responds, he did. So he gave me a certain amount that he did have, which was $2,000. The defendant gave you $2,000. He says yes. And what did you understand that money was for? He answered for his bail. For the individual shown in Government Exhibit 68? He says, yeah. Was that $2,000 ultimately used to pay the individual in 68's bail? He said no. You finna hear why he said no and what happened to this money and what happened to him in the process of this money. What did you do with this money? He said, I kept it. So you mean to tell me you stole? from R. Kelly. Not a watch, but monies. Let's see what happened to him, though, after he stole. And was the individual shown in 68 released on bail at some point? He says yes. I want to direct your attention to 2018. How would you characterize your relationship with the defendant at that time? I would say we had a good relationship, more of a friendship. And where would you spend time? Did you continue to spend time with the defendant? He says yes. Where did you spend time with the defendant in or about 2018? He said mostly playing basketball. And would you see him outside of the basketball courts as well? He says yes. Now, where would you see him? He stated either we'd be at parties or we'd be at cigar lounges, or that's mostly it. Or we'd go out of town or like a bar or somewhere, a club or something. Now, where did you attend parties with the defendant? He said in the studio in Chicago. She asked, do you recall the street where that studio was located? He said Justine. It was located on Justine Street. He says yes. Did there come a time when you and the defendant and the individual shown in Government Exhibit 68 were all in the same place together after the defendant was no longer living at Olympia Fields? He says yes. Where was it that the three of you were all together? He says at the Trump Towers. She asked what was at the Trump Towers when the three of you were there. He says, sorry, what was the question? She says, who, if anyone, lived in the Trump Towers when the three of you were there? He answered Robert Kelly. The defendant? He says, yes. She asked, how did it come to be that the three of you were at the Trump Towers together? He responded, he called me and told me that we need to fix our relationship, me and the individual, and that we need to be more like we are like brothers. So we need to fix the situation. She asked him, who had called you and told you that you needed to fix the situation? He said, Robert. The defendant? He said, yes. She goes on to ask him, and what had happened? What had? You testified earlier today, before we broke for lunch, that you brought the individual shown in Government Exhibit 68 to the defendant's house when you were still in high school, correct? He says, yeah. And what was your relationship with this individual when you were in high school? He said, my best friend. Yikes. So just like Geronda, best friend being Dominique, and getting her in this spiral of craziness, these two boys, if you can see them at the bottom of the screen, were best friends. And he got his best friend entangled in this craziness. Hey, T-Bam. Hey, beautifully animated. Yikes. Let's continue. We're almost finished, you guys. And at some point, did your relationship deteriorate? He said yes. And she says, and was that prior to the time when the defendant said that you needed to fix your relationship with this individual in Government Exhibit 68? He says yes. Now, what happened after the defendant said that you needed to fix your relationship with him, with the individual in 68? He said he had told both of us to come down. So we both rode down there. She asked to the defendant's house at the Trump Towers. He says, yes. She asks, what happened when you arrived? He goes on to say, we all went into like a living room, a living room area, and we was all sitting there, and he had instructed me and the individual to touch each other and kiss each other. We didn't really want to because we friends. We grew up together. So we didn't do it. Let me rewind that for a moment. These boys show up only to be instructed to touch each other. Best friends. And these ain't no little baby boys. They were 16, 17 years old. Instructed to touch each other and kiss each other. Mind you, they were brought to the Trump Towers, to Robert's house, to fix their friendly issues that they were going through. You know how you fall out with your friend or whatever, and you have somebody there that's like trying to facilitate the reconnect, only to be set up for a molestational experience. This dude is sick. She asked, well, what did you do at that time? He said, I sat there and I watched him. Where were you when this happened? He said, sitting on the couch. She asked, in the Trump Towers? He says, yes. And she asked him, and what did the defendant want you and the individual shown in 68 to do? He said, kiss each other. R. Kelly wanted these two best friend boys, Alex and Louis, to kiss each other, to make up, to fix what they had going on. She then asked him, well, anything more? And he responds, he wanted us to touch each other. She then asks, where did he want you to touch each other? He says, my privates. My privates. He wanted them to kiss each other, to touch each other. Right, Kamiko? You took the words out of my mouth. Just nasty. It's so sad. It's a very pretty name. I love Kamiko's name. I think that is so pretty. My subscribers. Did you want to do that? She asked. He says no. She asked, from what you did, the individual in 68 appear to want to do that? He answered, no. So Louis didn't want to. Alex didn't want to. The only fool that wanted it was R. Kelly. Hey, Isha. Yikes. Let's continue. Did you express that to the defendant? He says, no. Most kids don't. Most people in that position don't express really too much of, feelings of not wanting to do it. You're it's awkward, you feel vulnerable. She says, well, what happened? Listen to this. Since we wasn't doing what was told, he told the individual, come on, let's show him how it's supposed to be done. Since we wasn't doing what was told, he told the individual, which is Alex, you guys, to come on, let's show him how it's supposed to be done. Right, babe. Sick. That's what my husband said. Y'all didn't hear him. Since y'all don't want to do it together. Because again, they're best friends for one, and for two, they're not gay. Okay? And he still does the experience because, nigga, you a dude. So, okay, y'all don't have to do it to each other because y'all best friend, but come on, let's show him how it's done. Yikes. She goes on to say, well, when you said he told the individual, who is the he in the sentence? He says, Robert. She adds, and I think going forward, to the extent you can, let's try to refer to the individual as number 68. Is that okay? Number 68? Okay. So the defendant told the individual number 68, government exhibit 68, to do what? He says, let's show him how it's supposed to be done. She says, well, what, if anything, did you observe? I give you guys a moment. Okay. If you're squeamish or anything, or if you know. He goes on to say, I saw them having sex together. So this ain't no alleged. You have a witness. This is what he observed. Hey, SOAV. Hey, honey, it has been a while. Yikes. I saw them having sex together. Now, she goes on to say, what did you do after that? He says, I was instructed to go sit in the bathroom. She didn't ask him, who instructed you to sit in the bathroom? He said, Robert. She says, the defendant? He says, yes. Okay. She says, during the encounter that you witnessed between the defendant and the individual in 68, who, if anyone, appeared to be in charge? Uh-oh. He says, Robert. She says, how so? He says, he instructing us what to do. Sounds like a person that's in charge to me. She then goes on to ask, when you say us, are you referring to yourself and individual in 68? He says, yes. She goes on to say, I'm showing you what is in evidence as government's exhibit 78. Without saying who it is, Do you recognize the individual shown in government's exhibit 78? He says yes. Now, have you ever had a sexual encounter with the individual shown in government's exhibit 78? He says yes. Now, at the time when you had that sexual encounter with this individual in government exhibit 78, did you know her name? He said no. Where was it that you had a sexual encounter with this individual? He said in the studio on Justine. She asked him, whose studio? He says, Robert. She says, the defendant? He says, yes. She says, why were you at this studio? He responds and says, we were all hanging out that night. We went out for some cigarette, and eventually we went back to the studio to listen to the music. Who was hanging out that night? She asked. I can say the name? She said yes. He responded and said, me, Robert, and Julius. And she asked, and who did you understand Julius to be? He responded and said, A&R. And she said, well, what is A&R? And then he responded and said, somebody to help you develop your music. And then she asked, well, how did you know Julius? And then he responds, from the parties. People at the party telling me who he was. She then asked, through the defendant, that you met him? He said yes. Or saw him? He says yes. And she asked, and did all three of you and Julius and the defendant, go back to the defendant's studio on Justine Street? He says yes. And she asked, and what, if anything, were you doing when you went back to the defendant's studio? He goes on to say, first we sat at the bar for a while, and then I had asked him, did he have any new music he was working on? He took us to the back area to the studio and started listening to the music. She said, who did you ask if he had any new music? He said, Robert. What happened after that? He goes on to say, and after we sat there, the same song kept playing over and over. He started to doze off. When he dozed off, I was letting him know that I was leaving for the day. Where was the defendant at this time? He said he was all sitting on a couch in the studio. Do you remember what room in the studio you were in? She asked. He responded and said, from what I'm told, it was the main studio in there. And then she asked, and what, if anything, do you remember in the studio? He says, I remember the engineer, all the mixing materials and the keyboard and everything. She says, you testified a moment ago that he dozed off. Who dozed off? He says, Robert. And she says, at that time when the defendant dozed off, where was Julius? He was still sitting on the couch. He said, what happened? Next. He says, I woke Rob up and told him I was leaving. He said, okay, you can walk me out. Instead, we went into another room. Yikes. Who went into another room? He says, me and Rob. She asked, where was Julius at that point? Could you tell? He said he still stayed in the studio. And do you remember which room you went into? He responded, says, like another room, like right next door to the studio. It's okay, baby. It's okay. Y'all, that's my husband. Y'all know we share. Spaces. He excited. Hold on, y'all. Sorry, y'all. My son came in. She said, what happened when you went next door to the studio? He says, he told me he wanted me to have sex with his girlfriend. And how did he describe his girlfriend? Said, just told me she was a girlfriend. And she says, how did you respond? He said, I said, okay. I can't even knock him. And she said, what happened? He said, he had left me in there for a minute, went and got her, brought her back, and then when she got there, he instructed her what to do. Sounds like, again, him being in charge. Miss Gideon says, when you say he left you in there for a minute, do you literally mean a minute? He said, probably like I would say maybe 10, 15 minutes. When he returned, who was with him? He said the individual. She said, the individual shown in Government Exhibit 78? He says, yes. Y'all, this is where we're going to stop. She asked, prior to that time, had you seen this individual, the one shown in Government Exhibit 78? He said, no. Just looked maybe familiar from women from the basketball court, but I never seen her like in person, met her. She says, had the defendant ever introduced you to the woman in 78? He said, no. And she asked, well, what happened when the defendant and the woman in Government's Exhibit 78 came into the room? He said he instructed her what to do. What did you hear the defendant say to her? He said he told her to give me oral sex. And she asked, and how was the individual in 78 dressed when she entered the room? He said that she had on just a t-shirt. And what happened when she came into the room and after the defendant told her to give you oral sex? He said she then gave me oral sex. Where was the defendant when that happened? Standing off into the corner like a darn creep. What, if anything, was the defendant doing when that happened? Recording. What was he using to record? We're going to stop right there. We stopped off on page 1869, overall page number 7. Overall page 70, but page number 1869. We'll continue on page 1870. Let me see what y'all have to say in regards to this. Kamiko says, I can't wait until he's under the jail, period. I will have to say, here. I mean, I am just speechless. Like, I remember reading this testimony, the transcripts, but to read it again, to hear it again, it's just sickening. It's sickening, it's sad, it's disturbing, it's disgusting. And you still have all these supporters who, oh, he's not gay. Oh, they're liars. Well, are these boys lying too? Are they hot? fast, knew what they were getting into, wanted it. It's all about the money. I heard somebody saying that they got paid off. Like, I'm just like, y'all need to stop it. So did they get paid off to lie? Or did they get paid off to tell on him? Now, if they got paid off to lie, in both ways, why? I don't know how much money that a person can get to be humiliated, to have to lie about sexual experiences that they otherwise probably wouldn't tell a soul. Because on the contrary, we didn't know about Lewis. And to be honest with you, this is Arline Michael. That's why Arline Michael Jr., this baby right here. Okay. Who is now married with children. I don't think he would want this to be out. So I don't think there's any amount of money in the world that you can pay any straight man. And I emphasize that because on the contrary, they were sexually abused. Doesn't mean that they're gay, because they got their innocence stripped away from them. And clearly he was not gay for him to go about getting married and having children and proceeding to be with a woman and move forward. I don't consider him to be bisexual or gay in that aspect because he was sexually abused. Now, if he went on to continue that lifestyle to continue to mess with men, which we don't know. I don't know, little dude. You know. But R. Kelly did. But this is unfortunate. It's sad. And we're going to continue this series. Like I said, Happy Pride Month, R. Kelly. Happy Pride Month. It's okay. And I honestly say, like I always say, that I feel as though if he was able to live out his truth, it probably would have stopped a lot of abuse with these girls. But I think he was just, sexually perverted because of his sexual trauma and not being able to live the life he really wanted to live, which is gay. Because he's treating these boys, as you will hear on down the line, when you hear about Richard stealing from him and just saying, well, just bring it back. All is forgiven. But we heard the transcripts of a audio, him going crazy about somebody allegedly stealing a watch from him. On the contrary, you guys, not for nothing. That is the video. Thank you guys for tuning into another episode of They Called Him Daddy 2. Okay, as we continue to read the transcripts of these John Does. Don't let nobody mislead y'all, okay? At all, okay? Because no, this man is gay. Okay? And did nobody put him in this position but himself. All right? Kamiko says, pride is prideful individual. He is not that. He's a whole predator. Exactly. I'm just saying he can't live out. He can't live out in it. You know, he is upset that he can't wear his flag proudly. Hey, Miss Fugel, girl, I heard you over here clowning online, ma'am. She says, how witty in chat. His wife left him after this coming out. We heard during sentencing. Mm-hmm. He's a coward. Because, brother, live in your truth and leave people alone. But see, y'all got to remember the time that we was in the 90s, early 90s. I don't think we will be stepping in the name of love and all these other beautiful songs that he came out with. We wouldn't be believing we can fly. Okay? So on the contrary, I feel as though that he hid behind this sex persona and he bust a lot of these women down just to kind of make a mask his true identity of being gay. And if one more person come in my comments, okay, this ain't no alleged. And if you got a quorum with somebody, you need to take it up with your P King, not me. I'm reading transcripts. Okay. And okay, we saw how he shivered and quivered when these guys were on the stand. Couldn't keep his composure when they were asking him all these details and questions. Kept taking the mask off, put it on, beatboxing, and all kinds of different stuff because it was out there. His own lawyers were saying this is not about his sexual preference. It's not. We're not talking about that. What I'm showing you guys is that it was not just girls that he did this to. It was boys. And on the contrary, because how this world is so sexist, one or two things happen. They get pushed by the wayside, or they get ostracized and told that, ninja, you gay, gone on somewhere with that. When, on the contrary, if it was a little girl, she's hot, she's fast, she wanted it. Oh, the parents. But as we read about Lewis in particular, his parents were in and out of this situation. Mama reached out to R.Kelly to tell him about her son being an artist. She was low-key a fan. Ain't nobody talking about that. Why y'all worrying about text messages still? Then we hear about the mama being a Goober fan. So much so, the baby couldn't get into the party. She goes off to Walmart and buys her baby the disc to be able to get in. Like I told y'all on the last episode, my mama wouldn't have did it. Oh, that's too much. Okay, baby, you ain't gonna be able to go to this party. Come on and get in here. Go on and get in the car. I'm not gonna do that. If you can't just go in, I can't drop you off. I gotta leave now, take you to Walmart and you know what I'm saying, Sound City or whatever, and get you a CD to get it. Nah, baby, get in this car. You ain't, I guess it ain't meant for you to go. No. Because this lady was an Uber fan. She goes to get the boy a disc, bring him back to the house to party, to get in. Ain't no up in arms about this parent. Then on the contrary, we go on to hear about how he finagled his way into this boy's life by whispering in his ear in front of his mama and daddy, you need to come next time by yourself. And that happens. Just like we heard about other victims of his. He drove his 17-year-old, 16-year-old behind and met him in his car. Where was the parents? Then we hear about the thievery. We hear about him stealing from R.Kelly. Oh, but if you give it back, all is well. But now you cussing and threatening this young girl. There was a total difference in characteristics and behavior between the sexes, even under his roof. He treated the girls poorly. Low-key, as we're reading and hearing, he basically had these women being slaves to the men. Did we really hear him ask the girls what their fantasies and stuff like that was? Please let me know. I'll wait. No, we didn't. Not once did we hear him ask, well, what's your fantasy or whatever, and making that happen. No. They kind of worked on behalf of the men that he had in there. Did we hear about any of the men being in bondage and locking doors and rooms? No. We heard that they could walk about freely, and the girls couldn't look at them. And y'all want to sit here and talk about some, oh, they got boobs and shopping sprees. For who? It wasn't for themselves. And on the contrary, yeah, they got those medical enhancements, but they also got diseases. They got beat. They got belittled. They got berated. So the reason why I'm doing this series is to put a magnifying glass on not only the injustice in society, because y'all are dragging still to this day, child, the girls that are involved in this situation, the women that's involved in this situation, but y'all mom's the freaking word when it comes to these boys. And they were abused too. But nobody's talking about that, but I am. And I don't care if it's 35 people that watch it. It's out there. And just like this whack attack said, they should have did this 30 years ago. Now it's injected. Well, this is injected now. Fight me on it. This is testimony that I feel like nobody needs to make up to get what? He didn't get no money. He didn't even get his career off the ground. We didn't even know this little Richard dude. We didn't know him. Nobody knew where he at. We didn't know him. You didn't. We didn't know who he was. We barely knew who Azriel was. Although we can WW dot her when she was 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, 8, 7, even Joycelyn. You can see videos of her on YouTube trying to sing. So miss me. Miss me. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. Protect Black women. And then if we're going to do it like that, protect people, period. But we're not going to act as if he didn't do this to young boys. We just not. We're not here. Not going to do that. Not doing that. Oh, yeah. Okay, I read that one. Anyways, you guys, so that is it for me. I ask that you guys tune in next week for the continuation of this series as we dive deep into, they called him Daddy too, the John Does of R. Kelly, the men in his life, okay? Regardless if y'all want to put that out there that they wasn't in relationships or whatever, he wasn't in a relationship with anybody he was involved with, child, period, okay? Period. We didn't know any of them until the ish hit the fan and he had to make a safe face for himself. We didn't know none of them, okay? So stop it. You don't have to be in a relationship to sexually and physically abuse somebody. And that's what he did to these little boys, period. Okay? Join me on tomorrow as we look at another episode of Where Were the Parents? Bringing that back tomorrow. Sorry, y'all, it's been a minute. I know. And then we have Straight Talk with Whitney D on Thursday as well. So please make sure you guys join in. Taper says, hey, baby gal. Hey. Hello. Good evening. Beautifully Animated says, boy equals men need to be heard. Have backup and be protected. Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. That's on period. Okay. I just feel like anybody sexually abused needs to be heard, needs to have a voice. Whether it's girl, boy, black, white, I support you, especially when your story is real and authentic and it held up in a court of law. That's period. Anything else, I don't give two craps about, okay? Not for nothing, you guys. That is the video. Thank y'all so very much for tuning in. I will see you guys on next week for another installation of They Call Him Daddy Too. Love y'all. Good evening to you.
What the hell is wrong with you people? Every famous nigga that gets arrested is not Nelson Mandela. Yes, the government conspires to put a lot of innocent black men in jail on fallacious charges. But R. Kelly is not one of those men. We all know the nigga can sing. But what happened to standards? What happened to bare minimums? You a fan of R. Kelly? You want to help R. Kelly? Then get some counseling for R. Kelly. Introduce him to some older women. Hide his camcorder. But don't pretend like the man is a hero.
Are you in? Keep it cute.